Yeah, and I will send a link to Twitch if somebody interested.
I'm sorry, will it be recorded too, or?
I'm already recording, so don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Video will be. Uh, okay, I put here like here. So in chat is a link to Twitch where will be also this video. So maybe we should wait like 3
Let's
or
probably wait.
well
Yeah,
like
just like a few more minutes. People
yeah
start
yeah
rolling
yeah
in.
yeah yeah yeah. Because when that time is changed and yeah we will see. Yeah, on Twitch I see it. Looks fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I hope also OBS is set up correctly that all voices are uh, uh, there. So we'll see.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Maybe. You can play that teaser.
Oh, the teaser.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, yeah.
here's a good teaser. Um, where did I put it? Here you go. Oh no, I didn't. Where did I do it? Oh, here we go. No, wait. Forget where I put it. I had a fun animation. Maybe I deleted it. Oh wow. Anyway, so I guess we can go ahead and get started here. Um, so today we're going to be releasing this plugin. The Blender plugin tool is what allows you, it's community made. Hunter Z, amongst others, have worked really hard with some folks and to get this created. Had a little bit of a breakthrough about a week. What'd you say, Hunter? About a week and a half ago with the elbow control. It was a week and a half ago. And we'll get more into that in a second. But basically, the overview of the tool is you're able to pull skeletons and everything into Blender, and you have options to either import or export TXOs. TXO is unbinarized skeleton, and a TXA is unbinarized animation. You can import those, and also you can export those. If you're doing custom skeletons, for example, raccoons, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
um, then you can actually create the skeleton, assign names to the bones, and generate a model.cfg of the skeleton to be used in DayZ, and also adding the survivor IK bones we'll get to in a second as well. Um, a quick overview on how this works though is the two different kinds. You have the IK animations, and then when it comes to weapon reloads, we get the IK animations. So that's your hand placements. It has registered once. People always say, "Can you adjust your hands if you attach a foregrip?" That is registered once in the mod register callback, and the only way to do it again is to register everything else in the game. That's as far as we got. Um, so it's not necessarily practical in that application. Um, the other aspect would be reloading, which is an additive animation. So this actually, the animation doesn't include your entire character. You can think of it as just basically the shoulders down, because you don't want it to change anything else on the character. I've explained this to people in the past, and basically the way that it works is you have an idle animation, which is typically the animation you see your character at the main menu just standing there. And the things like the IK and the reloads are added to it. So think of the idle as just a bowl of ice cream, and then the IK and reloads are the sprinkles on top. So, and that's where if you go into Workbench, and if anybody's loaded up the animation editor and just played simply that animation, that's why your character kind of either turns into a meatball, or the head disappears, or other shenanigans like that. Also with the tool, if anybody's familiar, I'll put this out there. I know a lot of y'all have mixed feelings about the paid version of Makiros. But if you get the DAnim GUI, it makes your life a lot easier. So here, looking at an idle animation, this is actually weapon raise with a rifle in your hand while standing. And you can see what bones are actually at play and being used. So, and that's really important because it changes quite a bit as you go through it. Like a cocking animation for one gun might include a certain number of bones, and then another gun that you think, oh, it's just going to be the same thing. It's not. You got to double check. Also, if you're familiar with this program, the events that are placed here, which involve weapon state changes and things like sounds. So sound IDs and survivor base are assigned to sound sets that you can call upon. And you can, so in the past we edited those. We would go here to edit those. With the Blender tool, we have sidebar for DayZ Animation Tools, and you can edit your events right here. I can load up an example. Some of you may or may not have seen it, and that's fine. But this is an example of what you're capable of doing with this animation tool. So this was just a railgun that I had done, and this is very similar to the rig that I am providing in the samples. So we're going to provide samples, rig, and the tool today. So this rig, you'll also have a tab up here, so you can go a vague first-person view. I think I might have messed up the camera on this file though. But you can see, you can get all the details in here if you're patient with it. Then it's simple, and there's some tutorials. Today we're not really going to be covering how to do this specifically, like do animations in Blender. That's a universal thing that either Google or ChatGPT can tell you all about. And I will say this: 2.5 months ago, I didn't know anything about it. I was a complete noob. So after vigorous Googling, this is where we're at. And so it's extremely learnable if you wish to learn. What we're more focusing on today is it would be the tool itself and some of the common pitfalls with your bone selection, and just some shortcuts, quality of life stuff that's going to make your life a little bit easier and help you get started into this. So like I was saying, like I mentioned a minute ago, the events, which again would normally be documented in here, you can control here, and they're on frame numbers. So like sound IDs for the sound sets for each little click and flip and ka-chunk or whatever you're doing, right? Are done here. Also, these are really important. These are required to change weapon states. So things like bullet eject, bullet hide show are actually just visible, but like bullet in chamber, weapon cocked, those are extremely important. Those are absolutely necessary. If basically everything else could be absent except for those, they have to be there. Another example of things that you can do before I dive into the rig that we'll be sharing today, is let's see if this file is going to actually work for me. Would be you can as long as you're patient with it, it's kind of stop motion in a way, but Blender helps you out. And there's a lot of tricks. People who are really familiar with Blender are going to they're going to learn this a lot quicker. And maybe there's some people out there that are already familiar with doing animation type stuff within Blender. And if that's the case, I applaud you. Please do what works for you. I can just share what I've done. So moving forward to what we'll be releasing today, this is kind of the GitHub repo that we'll be setting up for you. If anybody's familiar with Inclement Dab's DayZ mod template, that's what this is being built off of. So if you want to set up the way you do, like set up your work drive and your workbench, it's going to help your workflow a lot, and it's going to actually, like, you're going to be able to flip the animations a lot better, load up the game faster. You'll make tweaks, edits. You'll see a lot more progress. So we're going to be including just the base for that. Some simple. This is going to be updated as we go, so keep an eye on it. There's going to be some more documentation. There might be some tweaks, some additions. So just know it's not a one and done type thing. But we got some simple instructions in here. We have a sample mod that contains SVD model that's good to go. This is the same model that I used in my import tutorial that's posted on Infusion Modders, just for continuity purposes, and I already have permission from the original artist that to use this for as a teaching tool, so it's going to be perfect. Also, it so happens to be a weapon that we are familiar with, so we know if it's broken or not. So and then of course the plugin. The plugin, keep in mind, is not in a zip. So for those who don't know, you just copy, paste that into your app data, and it's all in the README on where to go, and you paste it in. So then we'll be including the samples here. So we have a base master rig. There's some focal points depending on what you're doing. The master rig here is going to be used. You can use it to make reload animations. There's IK samples. One sec. I had to blow my nose. I didn't want to do it in your ear. There's the IK samples involve additional bones, and I'll go over that in a minute. But what I've done here, and this rig, I tried to make it as easy as possible. It still takes care and a gentle hand, but as easy as possible for you to do either weapon animations, custom emotes, or you could even use this to make the Fortnite dance in DayZ if you really want to. So some things to help. I've made shapes on some focal point bones. So the hand you can use to grab it. Note that your arm looks strange. So just keep in mind that some of the bones need to be realigned in a way. So you have to play around with it. Just understand, like, your arm bones and everything. Honestly, it's so many times I've been trying to work with these and just look down at my own arm and try to move it that way and see how my arm moves. And it's been helping me a lot. But you'll notice, like right here, the right arm roll kind of makes your bicep doesn't bend that way. I mean, Pax might, but mine doesn't. So you have to straighten it out and then continue. So that's why some focal points include things like the right forearm. That's a bend point, natural bend point in your arm. The arm itself, where it connects to the shoulder. If you decide to do anything with the legs or feet or whichever, you can. I also added them to the knee and also the leg, as best I could. And of course, the foot should be able to grab it. And yeah, but you understand, you got to straighten them out. so it was still working on an actual fully fleshed out rig, but for us as DayZ modders, going from nothing to something is a lot better than what we had. A lot better than what we had.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so that this is just your base. Now there is a way, if you have a weapon model, to actually bring the model in, and I just left a little collection area down here to where you can drop those. And basically how that's going to go, if you wanted to do it, I've already got the SVD in here with the weapon parts. So the easiest way to do this, and if you have another way to do this in Blender, then I applaud you. Again, please do what works for you. I want to make sure my T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, so I do it this way. I get my P3D figured out. In this case, I can remove my proxies, and then I come in here, details, and just make like a handful of new LODs, just some blank LODs. It doesn't matter. We're not saving this P3D. But then all the parts of the weapon that we're familiar with, the bolt, the trigger, the magazine, the mag release, all these things, I drop them in their own LOD, and then I export as an FBX. I select whichever I want to do, wherever I want to put it. And then I select export current LOD only, uncheck both of these boxes, uncheck export normals, and then master scale to 100. And you hit OK. And then I do that for each part, the moving parts, and then of course the body. So what you're left with is multiple FBXs. So you get body, bolt, bullet, mag release, and trigger. In order to bring it in, that's where you just go import FBX, and then I can go like there's the body. Now, in case for those who don't know, your weapon bones are actually suspended by default in front of your the right side of your chest right here. These are your weapon bones right here. So you want you want to slave this 3D object to its applicable bone. So if it's the bolt, then it's weapon underscore bolt. If it's the trigger, then it's weapon underscore trigger, and so on. And the what we do have at our disposal with the weapons are actually 6 unnamed weapon bones. Just weapon bone underscore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that could be anything. That could be M249 cover, or a part of the belt, or it could be a flap on a laser gun. It could, whatever you want those to be, and we can go over that in a minute. But you can actually remap the selections that you've made in the P3D, and you could name it whatever you want. JD's silly weapon part, and you can slave it to any of these unnamed bones right here. So it leaves you with some options. You're not just stuck with bullet, trigger, magazine, bolt. But we do want to get this slave to its parent bone, so we can name it if you wish. But we go down to constraint. First off, we got to go right here to object. Once we have it selected, we're in object mode up here. It's very important. Here it's default 90. So we zero that out, and the Z is set to 90. It looks weird right now, but when you add a constraint to it and you go to child of, select your DayZ character. I put an underscore in front of the name, so it's at the top for you every time. And you go to your weapon root bone. Boom. Now it's slaved to that bone. And if I select any of the bones and go into pose mode, which is where you're able to edit and make animations, everything else like that, then if I select weapon root, the bone, not the object, but the bone, my 3D object moves with it. And that's how you can really figure out what you're doing. Also, there is a way to take this with like the player skeleton with your weapon model, export it as a TXO, and register it in Workbench as a XOB skeleton, and load it up in the animation editor and actually see the animations playing as it would in game. So this is like basically when you get all the weapon parts in, then you're gonna have a file that kind of looks, well, I don't know. I don't think I actually made a rig for the SVD, but you have this. This is actually one of the fire animations. It's very, 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 very simple animation. It always starts, and I want to cover these as well. Fire, IK, because if you try to look at these in the animation editor, try to figure out what's going on, you just turn into a meatball. So you really can't see what's happening. What's actually happening is it's really, and in this case, it's really only your right hand that changes. So for the sake of all the left hand stuff, like all of this can be deselected. Um, and it's just this, because remember, these are the sprinkles on top of what already exists. So the only thing that's changing is your index finger and the bolt that moves. That's it. And we always start with the trigger depressed on the fire animation, always. So this is like with the M249, this is where I would make the belt move when you fire, would be in the firing animation. There are some easy, in the rigs in general, there's some easy bone group selections for you. So if you just want to select a certain part, say these weapon bones here, then you can just hit the button, hit select, and now you have them selected. That's important because of when you go to export it. You typically, 9 times out of 10, you're going to export by selected bones only. If you do all the bones, your character will turn into a meatball in game. Ask me how I know. Uh, the oh, here we are. Yeah, there's the SVD rig I was looking for. So you can kind of see by default, your bolt's messed up, your magazine's wrong, and that's actually normal. But we do have all the objects in here. And what's really nice to have them split out is you can hide them if you need like one to get out of the way, just figure out what's happening or something. It makes it really nice, really easy. You do want to start, the way my workflow goes is when I get to this point, I want to first create an IK. So there are different poses. So basically the IK is on top of the rifle erect idle low, which is that's going to be a part of all the poses, the generic poses for your character. So that's what we've provided and generated. Is for like a rifle, you have crouched, idle, you have soft aim or weapon raise, basically. You have erect and prone. Same thing for pistol, climbing, like sitting on a ladder, carrying something heavy. Two-handed objects, one-handed objects. So we've provided as much as we can at this point to at least give you a launch point. So basically, you would start with the rifle erect idle low, and then move to the IK. What I'm kind of doing here to save you some time is in each one of these categories, when it's applicable, of course, I've made an IK sample for you, a .blend file. And if you want to toss on like prone or whatever on top of that, then you can do that. But for example, the apple, you can hold the apple and you can adjust your IK accordingly. The right hand dummy bone, which is going to be the object in your right hand, I've changed to this shape, basically a stick, so you can see, well, yeah, a stick thing, cube, so you can see kind of where it is or where the bone is. And I'm going to cover how to edit these IKs a little bit more, but just know that you would start here with one of these samples and then you'd move the hands accordingly to what you want to do. In the case of this SVD, I have some, there's our right hand dummy. So if you notice the bone structure, the hierarchy here, left shoulder, right shoulder. The weapon is actually a child of the right hand. So if I move the right hand, it also moves the weapon. So, but everything in your so an item in your right hand is right hand dummy is the bone. So if I move right hand dummy, I can move the weapon. I can move it forward. I can move it back. But just know with weapons, uh, in this sample here, notice where the buttstock is. Notice where it's lined up on his collarbone. Notice how the angle at which it is right here, and the angle that it's down. If excuse me, if you actually were to move this straight up, then you're going to be holding it over your shoulder like an RPG. If you move it down, it's going to be in your collarbone, or like basically in your armpit. If you rotate it, then when you aim down your sight in game, your camera will be level with the horizon, but your gun is going to be cockeyed on your screen. So it's very important to fine tune those things. And you have no idea how many hours I spent trial and error trying to get this to line up. Like, oh, it's perfect, but my iron sights are just canted 2 degrees to the left, and it looks weird. It is annoying, but it's the nature of the beast. When it comes, and of course, you can use this sample. I've also provided another sample, just not an SVD. This is just your plain Jane generic M4 or AK or whatever. So using the SVD, since we have a weapon here as a reference, the bones you want to move, you got 4 to focus on. You got left hand origin, which note it is a child of right hand dummy. So if I were to move right hand dummy, you might notice a second ago, always go off a parent, is it moved the left hand with it. Because think about it, when you're in game with a rifle and you move around, the left hand is slaved. It's always stuck to the rifle, and that's on purpose. So we have left hand origin. We have right hand origin. Right hand origin will actually move the entire thing. So it's like too far from your shoulder. It's too inside your shoulder, or however you wish to move this. Or it's it's too far this way, too far that way. You can change it that way. Likewise, you can also rotate it. You want it to be up, you want it to be more down, or whatever. And then the most important bones here would be right forearm direction, and left forearm direction, which is actually in this case is very odd, but it's stuck down here next to your hip. Basically, this is going to control your, and I can kind of boot this up in game to illustrate. It's going to boost, or it's going to move your elbow. This is your elbow control that we were alluding to. What you see in Blender is not always what you're going to see in game, but you can get it in a place to where it is. And it's always going to be different. Like, of course, if you do an AK, it's going to be very similar to an M4, similar but not always the same. But if you do something like an AUG, let's say, with a vertical foregrip, or you want to like Chris Costa C clamp the gun, which would be hot, but then you're talking about rotating this hand over to where you could C clamp it, or whatever you want to do, right? You want to do a vertical foregrip, you could do a vertical foregrip. So it's a little easy to figure that out, to figure out what you want to do. Let's see. Yeah, so like you could do this, but just know that you need to pay attention to what this is doing. And also on the hands itself, we have bone constraints. This is very, very important. A left hand, right hand, bone constraints. These angles are very powerful in moving the elbow, but only in the sense like these numbers don't actually do anything when you go to export the TXA. They don't do anything at all. What they do is they if you load this, if you think you have it right, load it up in game, look at your character in the preview, and there's plenty of times where I thought, okay, well this will look good, and then next thing I know, my arm looks like that. I'm like, well, that's not right. But in Blender, it looks like that. So the key is to look at what you have in game. I typically will look from behind to see, like, I'm paying attention to right here and the gaps right here and the angle, the bend, and then I adjust these numbers, the pole angle, to match what I'm seeing in game. So if I'm seeing this in game, then I come down to the left forearm origin
Maybe
or direction.
I can say to this something. This plugin is created like from scratch,
Yeah,
and we tried like reverse engineer this IK from DayZ, from AnimGraph.
yeah,
Then just you should understand that this plugin is not 100% accurate to game,
exactly.
but as already JD said, something is much better than nothing, and you can see also in showcase lot of his weapons which he did using this plugin, and it's possible do it, and it's very well speed up development. uh, First animation which JD did, they did it without this plugin, basically in Notepad++. So, uh,
Yeah, it was like this. It was like this. I want to do this one. It was bad. It was bad. I would come in here and I grab all these numbers for all the bones, and I would manually construct the TXA, and the TXA being this. So here, we're lucky. This is only 7 frames, and you can illustrate those just by one entry. But I would have one of these for each one of these.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I'd have
yeah.
to copy paste the numbers over and everything, and then reformat it. And so I
So
had to manually make
yeah,
these. It's
so
pretty bad.
it's really needed when you set up some pose which looks fine in Blender, test it in game, and that's why is here prepared that environment which help you like very quickly to see how that animation looks in game.
Yeah. Now, for those who don't have the paid version of Make Heroes and don't use this, I will tell you this. Actually had one of the BI devs tell me this, so that's the only reason I know. When you come into Workbench and you have your Workbench open, set up, however you want to set it up. If you want to set it up and use the Workbench, the gproj, I just set the default program to the gproj to DayZ Workbench in your tools. And in the samples, or in the repo, you'll notice when you first download it that you have a setup work drive. So this is made by Inclement Dab. All you have to do is just double click it, and it will basically copy the folders over. So it's the same folders in your work drive, in your P drive, and then you'll have the ability to what I just did. A little bit ago, I double clicked this, and it opened up Workbench tied into this. So if I want to load this in game, all I got to do is just hit F6, and boom, it starts loading. It's quite nice, quite very nice. And what's even better about it, well, granted, you do have to. It'll generate a mods folder in your P drive, which will just be basically a copy of your workshop folder that you're probably familiar with. You create a folder in here with the same name as JD's animation demo. So I've done that. Where are you? There you are. So I just created the folder and then packed it. You don't have to use Makiros. You can use add-on builder. But what is nice about this method is if you use Mikiro's, then Workbench is not going to complain about you having two files with the same name because one's in the temp folder and the other one's in your mod, and it's going to force you to delete one of them, or it's going to close Workbench. So this is a way around that. Here you can see well, first off, there's our IK. So that's this. Well, not that. There you go. It's this in game. To illustrate exactly how to do this, once you set up your bones, and oh, just note what I was getting to a minute ago. The angles. If you have to fine tune it, but I usually come in here, I spin my character around, and I look at the arm gap. And then I spin my character around here and basically try to match it with the slider. And then I start moving the forearm direction bone. Because if it's wrong, I can either move it out, up, but the position of this bone is actually strategic because this is what's going to dictate. This is how I test it to see if it's like, screwed up. I look down and lean to my left. See how it's usually going to be your left arm that's going to give you issues. So when I lean to the left, then you can see how your elbow tries to stay out. If it's wrong, then your elbow is basically going to be inside your rib cage. Another good one is crouched, and it's not even going to do it with this long rifle. But if you do this, do not get discouraged. There are actually examples in the base game that are pretty bad at this. Yeah. What is that? Not sure if you see what's happening to my arm right there, but I don't know about y'all, but my arm doesn't do that. My arm doesn't do that. So this is basically what we're trying to avoid with these bones are these kind of actions. That's a problem. So if you don't do it correctly, that's what you're gonna get. So you have to do it this way so that left elbow stays out. Also, a good one is throwing. Just tap G, and you'll know real quick if it's messed up because your left elbow will go crazy. Sometimes it'll just go inverted and it will be over here, and you'll almost be touching elbows. So that's another real good test. So remember that. Lean to the left, look down to check your elbow, and even like crouched throwing, just get it up there. Make sure your elbows stay proper, and that's when you know you're in a good place. Because this view alone won't give you the entire picture. And if you cover those bases, then basically any players that are going to be using your models, they're not going to run into any issues. It's very realistic to be on top of a building, looking down, leaning left, looking for a guy, and nothing's going to get you clowned on harder than when they do that and your arm turns to spaghetti, and then they take a clip and then they tag you and they say, "Nice animation, bud." So you know what I mean? It's just it's part of it. So this gives you in the IK, this gives you the elbow control. And then, yeah, like I said, once you have the angle on the hand constraint itself figured out to where it kind of looks like it's in game, then you can start moving around the direction bone to basically get it to where you want. So if I want to pop out that elbow and do it this way, then I can. And actually, I found that this was pretty close. So if I do that, and let's say I could do the same thing with the left arm. This one's a little stranger. So here I can just chicken wing the entire thing. Good way to do this because once you change frames down here, it's going to undo what you did, and that's not fun. So, whoa. You want to make sure that you insert the keyframes. A good way to do that, since I already have the bones in here with the IK sample, come over here and just come over here and hit A, and then down here hover your mouse and do only selected channels, and there you've inserted the keyframes to the applicable bones. Here you don't have to do any bone selection. The plugin does it for you. It's quite nice. So we go to export TXA. We can drop this into our samples even, and just load it in game and see what we get that we make right now. So here's our IK. You do not select any bones. The game defaults to 30 frames a second, so I always put 30. If you want to make your animation slower, which is what I did for the railgun, I changed it to, I think, 20 or 25, and it made it perfect. There's nothing out there saying you can't do that. If you want to make it 60 frames per second, you can do that too. Just know it's going to be a lot more frames, but it doesn't have to be 60 frames. You can choose your frame rate here, and then you have some drop down selections. You have full body, which would probably be for your more like your emotes. And then you have Survivor one hand animation, or one hand IK, sorry. You have Survivor two hand IK. That's the one we're going to use. There is a Survivor reload, but I typically don't use it, and I can't really tell the difference between that and just additive. A reload is an additive. So when we do a reload, like charging the weapon or changing the magazine, we just do additive with selected bones only. We'll get to that in a minute. Survivor IK two hand is what we select. Export the TXA. We already had it in there. So, and the nice thing about Dab's setup is if I want to close the game, then all I have to do is hit F10 and it immediately kills it. So from here, we could go into our animation folder. And this is actually where you turn TXAs into .ANMs. Where's our IK? Here we go. So here's our new IK. Right click it. When you're doing it for the first time, you do register resource and import. But if it's already in there and you're just making changes, then you do re-import resource, and then boom, there we go. We got a new IK. It's very important that you're actually going to need to pack it, because even if you have file patching on, it will not. It's not going to do it. It actually needs to be repacked, sadly. Let's see. Nope, that was wrong. So let me see. We find our. Sorry about that. I thought I had this already set up where I don't have to go find my files. So we just grab our animation folder because I have it split out. And yeah, it packs very fast. So then you just F6 it. Loads up the game, and then we can see if we got chicken wing arms. Something else that I did is I took the left hand. Last night I was messing around. I took the left hand off the gun and just made a silly gesture with my left hand. So I was just holding the SVD one-handed. You can like shoot it one-handed. When I was doing that, I did mention casually, and I was like, "Dang, you can actually make it to where you hold the pistol sideways, gangster style. There's nothing stopping you from doing that." Let's see. This usually doesn't take too long to load. There we go. Oh yeah, there we go. Chicken wing. Yeah. So that elbow control keeps that elbow up. And you throw it. Oh yeah, there it goes. It breaks. See, so you have to be strategic about it. Now I'm eating my elbow. Delicious. Nom 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 nom. So it's that's why you do have to be strategic with how you do it, because and test the parameters on what's going on with it. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, but this does give you a great deal of control over what you're doing. So that's basically the down and dirty of IK. If you want to try to understand a little bit more, then what I can tell you, and of course in the infusion modders and everything, you can see how to like what file to change. Well, I mean, honestly, I could just tell you. It's just one file to get the animation editor to load. Go to DayZ Animation Workspace, player main, and change player AW, scroll all the way down, and you'll see something down here. It's like the second to last line, event table. You just delete that line, and then you're off to the races. You can, in Workbench, you can go to the editor, go to the animation editor. You can open that AW file. Here we go. Now you have a library of ASIs for all the items, or items and stuff. So down here in Sheets, you can go to Master Control, double click it. In your graph wind, you'll see the top node, Master Control. Right click, Set Node Default Running. Right click, Run Master Control, and then hit play. And now it's more or less simulating your character. And you can still see where some of these bones are. You can see where those elbow bones are positioned in some cases. In your controls, you can scroll down and you'll find these sliders. You can do movement speed. You can do stance. And what this is really important with, this is kind of a crossover episode. If you do clothing, this is a really good place to see how your clothing is going to be behaving without loading it up in game. Because again, you can export as a TXO and make it into an XOB. And down here in player models, you can just right click, add preview model. And then you can add your own. So you could have like your backpack on, or I could have my SVD in here, or whichever. This is also a really good place. If you selected just any random ASI like this, it's a good place to get more information about what's happening with an animation if you don't have the Makiros paid version. If you wanted to do it that way, you could go to like reloads, and you could go to debug controls. You can change the names here because they're cut off. But say like fire, see there? There you can actually see what's happening. Just click the fire button. You see they just move their arm. Fire empty. Oh, doesn't have that one. Fire last. There's some in here that if you click it, it's just gonna chambering. So, like I said, you can change the names in the game files. You can change the names that are presented here to you, so that they're not cut off. Because you'll click the wrong one and you'll get a bunch of this missing operation. But once you click one like fire, then you can actually find the node wherever it may be and get more information on it. Let's see, like double barrel. This is not a double barrel, but whichever. Then you can go to properties and get some more information on it. You can, and there's a lot of things you have to play around with. Basically, this is a visualization of your ASI. The purple ones are for the parent, and the ones that are relative to the one that you clicked over here, or relevant to the one that you clicked over here, are in green. At least I hope it's green. I'm colorblind, so maybe it's a different color for you. I don't know.
Still green. If you're not.
Excellent.
Maybe
So
show that ASI file like because it's text file like his content. It will be maybe better to understand what is here.
The ASI file that we're using here, in the sample that I use, even though I do have the fire empty and fire animations here, this is basically the list of vanilla SVD animations, and then you replace them with your own. So, and then I also tried to label them to make it a little easier to read for someone who probably isn't too familiar with the ASIs. So they're kind of split into two different categories: erect and prone, and then you have like chain reactions, shooting, which is all your fire ones, unjamming action, weapon charging action, and then magazine reloads action. The one that confused me the most, I'll go ahead and tell everybody right now because you're going to run into it. was the description on this was player erect reload mag remove. That sounds like I'm removing a magazine, but no, it's not. It's actually simply your hand starting at your hip. Normally you would reach down to grab the magazine to load it. All it is like aborting the reload for some reason. So it's your hands at your hip and it just returns back to holding the weapon. Nothing happens. No magazine is removed in mag remove. So it's a little strange, but you can always check the animation editor to see what's actually happening. There's ways where you don't have to set it up this way. If this is too fancy for you, then there's nothing wrong with that. Then you can just actually go to the file itself in here,
Yeah,
and you'll turn to a meatball. But
maybe regarding this ASI, this is like anim instance, and
yeah,
I must say that this anim instance is perfectly safe, like when multiple mods with weapon animations is installed, then
yeah,
there is no conflict, because this anim instances not modifying main anim graph, so there can be a lot of weapon mods with custom animations together, and there will be no conflict. It's
exactly. And then you could do that safely with weapons and items.
yes,
And but when you get into like vehicles and stuff, it's currently not available, sadly.
yes,
Um,
yes.
and for anybody out there, if you go to do an ASI, or you say, "Hey, I'm going to make a pistol, so I'm going to use like the base game's Glock," cannot stress this enough because not enough people have been told. Um, so I'm going to tell you, if you grab something out of here, say the FN45, and you see this whole mess, this key right here is it. Get rid of it. If you're going to use this, just get rid of it. If it's you're not going to register the ASI, you're not going to fool with it in the animation editor. You just simply want to change the animations on a gun. Go through all of these all the way down and get rid of all those serial numbers so that it looks like this. No serial numbers. If you have them, those are generated automatically by Workbench when you go to import the ASI, and then you start editing the ASI via this interface right here. You basically would say, okay, I want to do this one. Here's the animation that I want. You can go over to the file and like select this and set it as the animation. Or is it? It might be select this and then I don't know. Either way, it's one of you bounce between these two views. Now I've turned into a meatball. The master control's over. Um, but uh, but yeah, it you can change it here. When you do that, it automatically generates these. Cut them out. Even if you're using the vanilla site, even if you're going to use this, and it's in your mod, cut them out. They don't need to be there. For Reforger, they do need to be there for everything. But in DayZ, our version of Infusion, they do not. Specifically for weapons and stuff. I will say with the bone remap, you'll notice this if you look at the DayZ player base where we all go to get animations, like you holding animations for M4s and stuff, all the way at the bottom of that script. You're actually going to find the bone remap. So here, this is basically a copy paste of the vanilla rifle base. But again, this can be whatever you want it to be. You can up here you get your class name. You select your ASI, your IK, and your states. I will cover states here in a second because that one's probably the easiest animation you're ever going to make in your entire life. So here we list like the selection that we have within the model.cfg and within the P3D. And then we have the bone selection from the skeleton. So this is weapon underscore bolt. So you declare it. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way down to whatever you want it to be. So this gives you creative freedom with it. I will say the states, since I had just mentioned it. Let's see, states is actually I bundled it into one file because you can actually, once you make your IK, you can immediately make your states, and then also you can make your firing animation too because you don't move anything. The states, weapon states, are 3 frames. 3 frames, and make sure to check at the bottom here, end on frame 2. If you don't do that, then you only get 2 frames. That's no bueno. These are the 3 different conditions that the weapon can be in: bolt closed, bolt open, jammed. That's it. And it only pertains to the weapon bone. So this could literally be floating like 20 feet up in the sky. Well, maybe not 20 feet up in the sky, but like it could be over here behind your back. It doesn't matter. It's just the weapon bones and where they need to be, and then it's all underneath the umbrella of weapon root. Also, I can't stress this enough, weapon root never is used in any of the animations. Only legacy, like pre 1.0 animations use weapon root. Nothing new. Anything. I say new, I mean like 2018 and forward. Pretty much nothing uses weapon root. It skips weapon root and it uses right hand dummy if it wants to move the weapon. So yeah, weapon states. That's a quick down and dirty. If you want to export weapon states, you select your weapon bones, which is already a pre-selection in here, weapon bones. And then you go to export TXA. We can go to our demo, animations, SVD, weapon states, selected bones only, 30 frames a second, additive, and then export TXA. Then you can come into Workbench. I refresh the folder every time for good measure. And then you right click, re-import source. And there you go. You have your states. So moving on to, what else do we need to cover, Hunter?
Maybe. I think.
Maybe these samples here, the IK samples.
Yeah.
So here, what I've chosen to give you here, a sample of holding the shovel, 2-handed item. So this is gonna be your 2-handed item stuff. And then of course you have your poses here. So if you bring this in here, and you say, okay, well I want to know what he looks like when he goes prone. You know, you can come in here and select prone, and that does look silly, doesn't it?
It's like flying on.
Flying on a broom. If you wanted to change these a little bit more, another thing to do is to play around with the non-linear animation. So you can select them if you wanted to try deleting the erect one. That's probably conflicting, to be honest. That'd be my guess, because it's trying to do standing and prone at the same time. So you just play with them a little bit. But yeah, and there's ways you can actually just remove them and put it back to a pose. You can come in here with any of these. You can come in here and delete these guys. You click the shield, hit that. Come in here, click this, that. Come in here, click this. Oh, I'm holding shift, by the way, when I go to hit X on that, and you'll see a notification. If you save it, it will not be back. And then from here, you can just select all, pose, clear transformation, all. And you're back to the A pose.
Or you
And then
can
from
use
here,
rest position when you click.
you
Yeah.
can, but if you wanted to make this the default pose,
Mhm.
then you could come in here, import a TXA, and you can import prone. The reason his arms are like that, it's just because we have the constraints for the IK bones, but if you come in here and click the little eyeballs, then you'll notice our player is simply holding something two-handed while prone. So, yeah. And that's again, you have to play around with it. It's a lot of this is you're gonna have to play around with it because it's just the nature of the beast. Animations aren't exactly easy. They're time consuming. They require somebody with a lot of patience, creativity, and somebody who really knows how to use Google and ChatGPT. ChatGPT and like 7-year-old forums, um, and YouTube tutorials is godsend for learning this. Because for those who've known me for a while, I never really knew Blender that well. So the other samples that we have here, heavy, we got you holding the sea chest as one of your samples. Let's see, like the ladders in there, the pistol. So we have the pistol IK. I will say when you go to do the weapon animations, my recommendation, you can do it how you want to. My recommendation would be to get the blank rig that's ready for like reload animations, and then go in and go to like poses, and let's just say in this case we'll go to like rifle. No, I think pistol. Actually, we'll go to pistol. I think pistol might be a better one. There's idle low, but then there's like idle low RAS, which is like your soft aim, and that's where we're holding the pistol in front of us. This is a good starting point, and because basically it's kind of like your weapon is more or less held up in front of you if you want to see it. A little strange when I say it out loud, but if I look at my MP7 reloads, which some of you all may have already seen, either me streaming or um, a video of it somewhere, then a good example of starting, you can kind of see he is almost holding it up in front of his face as if he's inspecting it or something. But in game, you get a different view. Okay, it's just it's a little strange. Don't be afraid of your animations being stiff. By the way, it will there's plenty of ways you can smooth them out in Blender to where they don't look like claymation. And I will say, Hunter,
Yes.
soon. 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 That's as far as I got, and then we go to crazy. So it's yes, very soon.
Uh-huh.
We'll have to figure the logistics out on that. But anywho, this is probably a good place to start. And I might even be willing to say, so everything from the spine down is needed, but you could probably go to the legs. I kind of wonder what happens if I do that. Nope, that didn't do it. Another good thing that I'll say, especially when you want your animations to feel more human, don't underestimate the spine bones, spine, neck, and head, especially the spine bones, because when you move them, when you just give them like a little bit of rotate here, a little bit of rotate there, it'll move the arms around and make it a little bit more fluid. So if you wanted to make like a quick animation to end on, I don't know, 50, frame 50, you could say like on frame 1, we want it to be like this, then we can like fast forward to like frame 10 and move them up a little bit over, and you hit I, only selected channels, and then move it over here and say like moves over like that, and so on, and then eventually, I don't know, returns. So then you can, and just with that, it'll fill in the gaps in between the frames. So see, and you can see how when you do that to these, it'll move them. I mean, it's just little things that really help. One thing that you're gonna run into, And this is something I wanted to cover, especially if we had time for it. Tracking magazines and other stuff in your left hand. That is going to be where that's as I often say, but it's so true here. That is where the brain cells go to die. If you look at some of the MP7 animations that I did, maybe not these. Where did I do it? Maybe for the prone versions of it. Yeah, I started adding bones in here. I added a left hand mag track bone, which is not actually a bone that you would bring into the game. It's actually just a copy of the left hand. So all I did was go into like edit mode, select the left hand, and just do like Shift D to duplicate it, and then renamed it to left hand, and then made it a child of the left hand. So if the left hand moves, this moves, and that way. And then I had to like strategically in edit mode position it, angle it relative to the left hand, and then in pose mode, I used I went down to my magazine and added constraints, weapon bone constraints, not to be confused with constraints, bone constraints, copy location and rotation of that mag track. So if I turn it on, obviously that looks silly, but eventually it lines up like right here. I want it to start tracking. And there you can see I positioned the bone to where it works. And it makes it a lot smoother. It makes your animation less jittery. Don't try to do it manually. Try to use some kind of method like this. If you have a better method on how to do that in Blender, I applaud you. Let me know because I'm very eager. But basically, especially if this bone wasn't already on the list and you want to add it to the list of keyframed bones, the number one thing you would hit is you'd up here in your viewport hit I and do location and rotation if you want to just simply do that. But if you're doing constraints like this and you're tracking it with this tracker bone you created and blah 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 and all this other stuff, then you want to actually not do location rotation. You want to do visual location rotation when it starts tracking, because when you go to turn these constraints off, then what happens is your bone isn't, or your magazine's not inside your left hand all the time. And that actually will move it on the keyframes you want it to move. That's really important, that visual location rotation. DayZ doesn't use scaling, so skip scaling, no scaling. Another thing, if your animation is a little jittery, so I had done this for the railgun, but if your animation is just a little bit jittery, then you can go to pose, go to animation, bake animation. You can select a keyframe range. Probably not only selected bones, but if you want to do it that way, that's fine. Visual keying, if you want to do things like this, like magazine track and stuff, that's a plus. And then clean curves, so it'll smooth it out, and you just hit OK, and boom, it'll do it'll if there's some smoothing to be had, it'll smooth it. So it's really nice and a powerful tool. So that's just something to keep in mind. And as you tinker with it, you'll start to understand and see. But it does take time, so please be patient with it. Hey Hunter, if it's all right with you, kind of wouldn't mind opening the floor to some questions.
Yeah, but before I would like also say something uh, regarding that anim instance. There is anim instance not only for weapons but also for items, and
Yes.
this is like another way or another thing which I want to to explain that you can even add animation to custom items. So, for example,
Yes.
you have some, I don't know, new flashlight, which is like enhanced by different way. Then you create first IK animation, how you holding this item in hands. But when you create anim instance, you can select some anim instance of existing item and even like override animation for it. So you can have action for turn it on, turn it off, and so on. And this is also non-collision way how to add new animations and even animations for actions for new items.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And some of them can be very simple. Like they don't have to be. Uh, Actually, I completely forgot where I put it. Anyway, no, go ahead. Sorry, Hunter.
yeah. So I think now is a good space for questions. Yeah, maybe you also showing this script. It's needed for
Yeah.
registering this anim instances, and
Yeah, the
then
DayZ player CFG base, which is in 4 World. I'm sure a lot of folks in here are familiar with this, where you go to select your ASI, your IK, and your states.
then bone
At
mapping.
the bottom, yeah, exactly, the bone remap. At the bottom, you'll see examples of the vanilla bone remaps on what they've done for certain things, and that's actually what I included in here, the mod register callback. This is just a better formatted version of this, but they're the same thing. And here you can do your bone remaps. And I want to iterate one thing we found out. You cannot do bone remaps on things that are not weapons, sadly. So if you had the idea of medical items where you want to do like custom, really cool space age animations for your medical items, it's not it did it, the bone remap doesn't work. If
Yeah.
even if you try to use the weapon bones and say I want this to be tied to this weapon bone that's just floating there, it won't work. I have a theory. I haven't tested it, but I think that the only theory that I have that where you can do it, you have right hand dummy where the item is in your hand. The only other bone that I can think of that is present that you could use is left hand dummy, which that's going to require some constraints similar to what I just described with the magazine track follow. But that's probably possible. Where you could like pull out the syringe and stick yourself the syringe. That's probably possible. I haven't got to it yet. So, but yeah, the weapon bones, that path with the bone remap, probably not going to work. If it's left hand dummy, it's probably in the P3D going to have to be named left hand dummy, and in the model.cfg skeleton, be named left hand dummy. And I don't even know if that'll work. The game might just not even care and not even do it at that point.
Yeah, we did also some ticket regarding this to allow this bone mapping also for items which is not weapons, because
Mm-hmm.
in vanilla API it's even written that this is for item bone remapping, not for only for weapons, but we will see if
Yeah,
this will be solved, this ticket.
yeah. And keep an eye on the feedback tracker. People are posting stuff all the time. I know Hunter's active over there, posting things all the time. If folks subscribe to it and they dogpile on it, it does get their attention. Especially if it's a good point. But I know Hunter just the other day posted one about vehicle animation instance, and when he says animation instance, he means ASI, um, where you can do it. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to mention because we had found this out accidentally. If you notice at the top of your ASI, you see there's a parent. In this case, it's a player main rifle. So if you go look at that one, this will be powerful for some folks. So if you go look at them, you see there's quite a few animations that are chosen. You got some gestures and the good ones, locomotion and such. Weapon change, another good one. Um, just things like that. You can come in here and just say, if you really wanted to, like weapon change. You don't have to recreate this file. You can actually just take this action and whatever and pull it down to specifically your ASI file. So if you wanted a certain weapon to have a certain weapon change animation, you can do that in your ASI file. You can take one from the parent, declare it here. But it is a little sensitive because it's a bit of a system. You can kind of see with even the locomotion, which is movement. There's like erect, idle, look, run back left, run back right, run forward left, run forward right, turn 0 degrees, 1. So it's a little bit of a web of things going on. So you'd have to be very strategic in what you choose. But nonetheless, if you chose to, you could do certain things. Don't think you have to override the action for everything. So yeah. Anyway, questions. No questions? Someone's got to have a question. I think they died, Hunter. Everybody's dead.
Yeah, probably.
Too much info.
Hey, what about when you import vanilla animations? Do they still, like some of them, meatball you? Like I told you in DMs?
Some of them can meatball you. Yeah.
That's
One
bad.
that I actually tried to explore in more detail would be I really tried to do a bow. Really tried. But then it came down to a matter of aim space, which this is a chart that will define it, and I just haven't sat down and defined it. Basically, when you raise the weapon, can you um you pull the string as you raise it,
You can
and it is a
you
bit
can
of a pain.
select anim instance of bow. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Bow
Yeah,
play.
yeah. And now when you go to controls, then
Yep,
you can raise.
raise.
Yeah, and
Ah,
this is exactly what is broken. Why it's not possible. And you can now change aim y, aim x, under.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. This first one,
Doesn't.
aim. Yeah, yeah. And oh, yeah. It's acting weird because in this animations are frames swapped to they should be swapped into new version because there is something old. When you
Right
select
here.
different weapon, then you will see it better this aiming.
Yeah. And this, I just copy pasted over here. We get the chart. So basically, what it's saying that needs to happen with everything else is if you do like I don't know the repeater. All right. So we got our repeater. We return our guy back to 0 0. All right. So the aim space is actually all the directions that you can be looking with the weapon. So here on it starts like frame 0, then frame 3, frame 6, frame 9, frame 12, and programs like Blender will fill in the gaps. But basically, first row is Y set to 90, 90. So looking down, and then we go from negative 180, negative 90, 0, 90, 180. So even here, negative 180. So now we're looking down and behind us, and from there, it has to go all the way around to 180. So that's like the first set, and so on. So then it goes to like 0 looking forward, and it's going to be the same thing. So if you try to edit this, because this is still something we're trying to figure out how to do, and when we figure it out, trust me, we'll let you know. Because it has a lot of other implications than just a bow. But if you try to mess with this, and I try to even make my own, I just turn into a meatball. Straight up floating meatball. Like there's a black hole in my gut and all my body and everything just right down in there.
Yeah, because this is additive animation, and we not yet figure it out how to visualize properly in Blender.
Yeah. But good question.
Any other questions?
Come on, y'all. You got to have some questions. Give me some questions.
Yeah.
Don't make me sad. Whoever asks the next question gets a free lollipop. Come on.
Maybe next question will be where I can download this plugin.
Where can you download the plugin? That's a great question, actually. Yeah, where can I get
When we
this?
download this plugin?
That reminds me, I need to make the repo public. And I need to post the link. I believe that the repo is in a good place. I did a lot of editing last night for it, just getting a few details sorted. Let's see. Yep. And yep. Yep. Oh yeah, GitHub with their 2-factor authentication. Look at you, GitHub. But yeah, we have it on GitHub, so we'll be able
Sorry,
to easily get it there.
I do have a question. I was trying to do like a dual wielding pistols. Is that possible? Because they just kept on like rubber banding into my hip and like pointing backwards. I'm pretty sure I had eye keys and everything set properly, but I don't know.
Yeah, dual wielding. I don't see dual wielding exactly being a thing. Because of all the other animations that are at play. The running, coughing, sneezing, or whatever. Dual wielding is still a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, because
Because
you have only,
yeah, it would be weird.
yeah, you have only like one weapon assigned to player, so player can control only one weapon. But I think probably will be possible to like have second weapon in left hand, but it will be like too much vanilla
Yeah, it would become a cobweb of a mess. I sent the link to the GitHub repo to Hunter, so he could, if he chooses to, he wants to post it in announcements or wherever he wants to post it here in this Discord. After the stream is concluded, of course, we'll take the recording and get it on YouTube. We'll take the YouTube link, we'll put it on the repo README, and also probably be posting both of those links around like Infusion Modders and
yeah.
other places, so just to make it visible for others.
Well, thank you for all your guys' work and your excellent explanation. You left like literally no stone unturned. I have no questions.
I appreciate that. A lot of good people spent a lot of time trying to make this plugin work, and also good people because even like Hunter's very adamant about making this plugin free and available for everyone, not behind a paywall. This belongs to the community.
Yes,
A
exactly.
lot of people putting it together did not have to do that. And I also want to thank Sis Rover for making our most recent breakthrough with the elbow control. The elbow control is about 80% accurate. So then you'd have to take like hours trying to fine tune it until it finally worked, but you didn't understand why it worked. Did it work? And then we dug a little deeper into the concept. We actually referenced Reforger on how those bones are being defined because they're the same. Like the way that they're interacting with the other bones, it's the exact same with the like the forearm direction origin and the right hand origin and all that stuff. Um, so once we got that narrowed down, we integrated it into the plugin. So when it goes to export, it exports them and reads them properly. So it helps. It's still, I imagine it's not a full 100%, but I think it's like a strong 90-95% accuracy.
Yeah, I think we should say like big thanks to Mr. T, which is original
Yes.
author of this plugin. He currently not modding DayZ, but he helps me during previous Christmas to make this plugin like new version and create this non-binary import export, which is very useful, and it's not against like Bohemia rules, because we cannot
Right.
load binary animations. We should only do this. Then this TXA files we can convert into anim files in DayZ Workbench. And he
Yeah.
also added here a lot of very useful things. For example, that event editor, because you know in Workbench sometimes it can crash, so that's why it's present here. Making that model.cfg using this plugin is very useful for people which will import a custom skeleton for animal creatures, new zombies or whatever they want. Also there is some feature which automatically add entity position bone and pin looked bone, lot of other things. And I also would like say a big thanks to Mario E, which is like my animation guru, which learned me like where to start and
Same.
what to like look in animgraph, learn from vanilla stuff, and I slowly like found how to do some things, and that's why I also want share my knowledge, and I'm happy that JD uh, making these weapons and sharing his knowledge too. So please, when you will found something, uh, share your knowledge too, and even try help us with improving of this tool.
Yeah, it's fully, and like he's saying, the tool was first like development on it started in December, so it's only been around for like 3.5 months. Um, People always say, "Why couldn't we get this earlier? Why couldn't we get this earlier?" Bohemia didn't give us anything. We had to make it our own damn self. So, um,
Yes.
and what Hunter was touching on, editing vanilla animations. Um, while yes, it's possible, it's not. It's not allowed. It's going to be on par with um, debinarizing and repacking vanilla P3Ds, which we all know is not allowed. That's a really good way to get your ass kicked off the workshop. So this is the best way, the only way we can do it. Any other way in the past was a mess of swapping between super old versions of Blender and all this kookiness. This makes it a lot more seamless. Blender has a lot more tools available to it. And this, oh, by the way, one key point, and I put it in big bold letters at the top of the README on the repo. This requires at least version 3.6.8
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
Blender. And if you want to be extra safe, I've had the most success with Blender 3.6.8. I've seen some folks who were demoing it last night to see, like, just checking the repo, make sure everything is in order before the stream today, and they tried it on 4.1, and they got an error when they turned the tool on in preferences. So, and I was like, well, try to download the older version 3.6.8, which isn't actually that old. It's a fairly recent version, and it worked perfectly. So it's your preference. I would recommend 3.6.8, but it should work on newer versions of Blender. I can't see why. But the reason I say at least 3.6.8 is, like, all the samples, the .blend files that I provided were in 3.6.8. So if you try to load them in an older version, you're going to get an error. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I also want to thank everyone taking time to listen to me ramble. I hope I was helpful. I hope I didn't info vomit on you guys too hard. And yeah, mole smells.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to see new weapon and item animators. So
Yeah,
feel
and
free
we're excited.
put into showcase what you did and how you are successful or not. But yeah, this takes a lot of time. So
Yeah, a lot of time spent on it, and even putting together the samples took a fair amount of time. The rigs and setting up the demo mod. But I will say, for those who are like, well, why can't we just use vanilla animations? When it comes to weapon reloads and stuff, you really don't want to use them. The way Blender works and the way that animations can be done in Blender, um, you're gonna have a lot more success figuring out the nuances of making animations fluid, more human-like. You don't need a motion capture studio. I mean, you just don't. Then there's a insane amount of information out there, how-tos free on YouTube. I mean, like, from industry standard stuff for weapon animations, and um, like like best practices and all that. It's all of it's available out there, and like, I'm still learning these things. We're still figuring this stuff out. So don't be discouraged. Uh, it actually makes life pretty easy, and it gives you full creative freedom to create whatever you want. Maybe not dual wield, but whatever you want.
okay, then thank you for watching. I hope soon I will see more animations and animators, and maybe next time we can make something else. Maybe some of you will have more questions or something. Then we can close this session. So
Yeah.
so
And if you have questions, I will say this, either to Hunter or myself, then probably best to ping us either in here or in the Infusion Modders animation chat, instead of hitting our DMs, because by doing so, that if you have a question, somebody 6 months from now just looking at this for the first time might have the same question. They can just go up and chat,
yeah,
use
yeah,
the
yeah.
search feature to get the answer.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I'm stopping streaming now and looking forward.